election, we have two first-time school members who are both Afro-American, one in Boxborough and one in Acton. And, I would look to them for, guidance and leadership on the issue as to what the concerns are and how best to go forward.
Peter, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, we had said when we started this process that we would release the report, and so I agree with all the other members that we should certainly make it publicly available, put it on the website, obviously while protecting the privacy of the parties who are involved. I think we need to have a broader discussion, and we're not divorced, certainly. I've said that this was just the beginning of this process, and this ought to be an ongoing discussion. We have to face these issues head on. Now we've had this extraordinary incident in Cleveland, or in Minneapolis, and an unbelievable upswelling across the country. I would urge the select board to engage in an interactive dialogue with the police department, with the town manager, with the community about some of these ideas. I mean, I'm enlightened and intrigued by this idea that maybe there's a better way to spend our resources than funding the police department at the level we do now. I know the police respond to mental health issues constantly. They take them over to Emerson Hospital. There's not enough mental health resources to serve people, so they'll let go, and the police are back at the house again 3 days later, dealing with the same issue. So maybe if we should be involved in this discussion about whether it might be better to put more money into mental health services and try to solve some of those problems rather than just reacting with the police and trying to deal with it that way. You're right that our police department was a leader in community policing concepts, and certainly was a sea change in the way police deal with the community, away from the militaristic approach that we see in some of these big cities. So I do commend our police department. They have been leaders in domestic violence, but perhaps putting more money again into domestic violence prevention programs rather than funding police who respond to incidents after they happen. They certainly are necessary to protect people, but we ought to look very hard at that. So I would encourage the select board to take this on, community forums, maybe a special committee to go over the police policies and see if there are ways that they can be changed to better provide services to the community. I did note in Natasha's report that the advocates were called to come and assist the mother, but none of them were available to get there. So maybe putting money into an advocacy program to try to help defuse these situations might be a solution. But we ought to start with a clean slate, look at this with a new eye, and engage the community in a discussion about what's the best way to move forward.
Okay, do we need a vote on this to release the document?
We do. So I have a motion.
Okay.
If I may. I move that the Board of Selectmen direct the town manager to publish the independent investigative report, including attached exhibits on the Miriam School incident on the town's website, redacted as required by law.
Is there a second?
Second.
David seconds. Will the clerk please call the roll?
John, before you take a vote, I don't know if you want to see if there's more public comment. I know that folks earlier said that they were here for this agenda item. That is up to you. It's not required to take public comment right now.
Okay. Nothing lined up, David?
No, there's one person who just raised their hand, but I would like to see us wait until after people have read the report, frankly. I think it's important for people to be informed. I can let this one person speak if you'd
Okay,
like.
yes.
Yeah, I would say that in response to Charlie's question, that reading the full report is going to clarify his
So,
particular issue.
Sure.
Is it Charlie?
It is Charlie.
I just want to say you have already released the report. John said that he provided a copy in response to a public records request. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is just that people don't have to ask. It'll just be on the website.
Well, okay, but do we want everybody to separately be writing to the town manager to request the same report? It doesn't make any
That's
sense.
why we're voting to release it.
That's
what, yeah.
why I'm supporting that.
Oh, great.
I'm just saying it's almost redundant. The report's already out there.
Okay, thank you. All right, will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Mr. Berry,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Trotter, aye, unanimous.
All right, thank you. David?
Yeah, can I ask the town manager or the chief if they have any comments and any steps that may already have been taken? And Chief, if you would like to speak, you can just raise your hand now.
Just to, while the chief's getting into the speaking role here, this is a conversation that we plan and look forward to having with the board and the community in the coming weeks and months, and hopefully at some point we can have it in person. I think there's a lot that goes into a conversation like this, and having it through Zoom is just one more element of difficulty that I hope that we can avoid at some point in the future. We have Chief Burrows. Did you want to make a quick comment on some of the things that we've been talking about?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manager. In response to David's question, we have changed the use of force policy to more clearly reflect when a use of force report is needed, as pointed out in Natasha's report. We are actively looking at some of the recommendations she has made regarding bias-based policing and cultural awareness, as well as trainings around those as well. We're looking into those as we speak.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We voted, so that concludes that. COVID pandemic update and discussion.
I mentioned a few things earlier, but a few things I didn't mention were including the phase 2 and how it impacts us as an organization. As you know, we've been closed to public. The town hall has been closed since March 13th. And I'm not recommending, and I look forward to any feedback that the board has, but at this point, I'm not recommending that we change that at this time. We have been providing all the services that we're supposed to, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job given the circumstances. And I'd like to ease back into having people in town hall. There have been several instances where people need help with something, and people have then made arrangements to either meet them outside, or we have a Zoom office hours now for a few of our different departments and divisions. And I think we're really innovating to help meet the demands of our residents without having public in the building. We are building out infrastructure to allow for people to be in safely, so we hope to be able to do that soon. And if you're getting any feedback from the public, I'd love to hear it, because I haven't really heard many complaints, which is good. I think we've been able to meet the needs generally acceptable way, and I'd like to continue doing that for the near future. However, good news is people have been missing the library very much, and the library is going to start with curbside, limited curbside service this week. So they've announced it on their website. I think they had a trustees meeting last week, and they are looking to provide for some limited distribution of printed materials, which I know people have been sorely missing. So that's great news. Other than that, we're just working through the different guidelines and regulations and how they've changed and how they apply to our community. Narrow Park. We're looking to open the beach this Saturday. We've been preparing for that. Beaches have been allowed to be open for about a week now, and we wanted to make sure we could do it properly before we started it. We are going to make it, it's going to be different. There won't be a snack shack this year, at least initially. And also the rec programs are looking at how to roll out summer camp, because that's a very important part of the services we provide in recreation, not only for the kids, but for the parents. So that's something that we're trying to put together with the new regulations that were just released today or over the weekend. So a lot going on in that area.
Yeah, I ate my lunch over there the other day, and there were 4 young people in swimming. They were having a great time. All right, anything else on COVID?
John, are boards holding their hearings? The ZBA and the Board of Health, are they having hearings on Zoom, or are they putting them off under that order?
I know that there have been some hearings or permitting things held. We haven't had any major big hearings, but that's something that we're talking about currently, and how to handle that in the next few weeks, and whether it's something that we can accommodate. I'm not aware of. There certainly hasn't been any in-person ones planned, and I don't know the status exactly of all the big ones that have continued several times. But I can certainly get back to you on that on Monday or sooner.
David, did you have something?
I just want to say that the Board of Health has been holding small hearings, and they also get comments in their meetings every week on the various decisions that they're making.
Yeah, and the ZBA meets tomorrow night on a couple of significant matters.
Okay, I also had a question about, there are 10 positions that are vacant during this, and can you just tell us what they are and how they're affecting town services? Are you filling positions? I guess, I don't know if people are turning over, but are there positions you've filled because you consider them more, important?
The only positions that we've filled since March have been firefighter vacancies. We've had several others in public works, in human services, in the town engineer. We're still without a town engineer, which is, it's causing some strain on our team. Corey and Chin and others are having to pick up a lot more work, and so it's going to continue to be a strain. But it's just, the hiring freeze was intentional, and I thought it was something that the board supported. So we're going to try to hold it as long as we can. It is going to start to impact services, but I don't feel that it has in a significant way yet.
Okay,
And John, there's one person with their hand raised.
okay.
Hi, it's Sarah from West Acton, and I'm wondering about businesses. A lot of towns around here are releasing lists of restaurants that are going to be opening outdoors, and we haven't heard anything from Acton, and hoping for an update there.
Okay, we'll be getting to that shortly.
Thank you.
Okay, town meeting.
So with regards to town meeting, we talked last week about plans for holding it on June 29th. And there's been a lot of concern about the initial plan, which was to hold it in the upper gymnasium. So we met with a group of school officials and police today, and a few other IT and other folks, to try to sort out logistics on how we'd be able to accommodate the need, or the request rather, for an outside space as part of town meeting. And so what we've come up with, actually, I have a slide to show you. Let me see if I can share my screen. So 2 things while I'm bringing this up. One is, we think it would be helpful to hold the meeting a little earlier. I know we initially discussed 6:30, and there was reluctance to go much earlier than that. I wonder if the board would be willing to consider 6 p.m. just to give us a head start on the daylight, with the idea being that every half hour counts. And let me just bring up my screen while we're thinking about that.
I think that's a good idea, John, if we're gonna have some outside.
Right, yeah. So we're proposing to have it at the upper gym and have that area totally spread out with a stage. And one thing I wanted to actually mention to the board is that it would be a lot less complicated to not have a stage in the gym, and we're hoping that the board is comfortable with just having the moderator and a presenter on a stage and having other boards and committees, well, the finance committee and the selectmen, I guess, and staff like me, just on a regular floor level. We can certainly accommodate either way, but I just wanted to mention that. So all of the primary core activities would be happening in the gymnasium, and then we would provide for a second location outside for people that do not want to come inside the gym. And this is where we're thinking. So to make this work, we would actually have people check in to the high school at the outside of the gymnasium. I mean, at the outside of the field house and gymnasium. So instead of normally when you come in to town hall, you probably come in through the circle in front and you go in the building. We'd ask people to come in to this entrance. I don't know if you can see my arrow, but to the entrance over here near the field house. And then the red square that's shown on the graphic here would be where we would set up an outside town meeting location. So to bring you a little closer, what we would do is, and we met with Eva and talked about voter security and how to make sure people aren't wandering in and out. And the police staff have already helped us think about that. But what we were basically thinking is that if you check in here at the entrance checkpoint, you can either go into the gym or you go into this outside area, and we wouldn't be able to provide cover. So if it were to be raining or some other precipitation, people would have to provide umbrellas, I guess. But let's hope for a nice dry night. And we would have a screen, a projector out there. We'd have the assistant or the deputy moderator out there. And we'd have microphones, adequate number of microphones. We'd encourage people to bring their own chairs, although we would put several out there, pre-spaced at a proper distance. And it would be a very different way of holding a town meeting, but we think we could do it safely. And there's a lot of people that I know would feel more comfortable being outside. The moderator, I believe, is here. We met with her today. Oh yeah, she's looking to speak. You mind if I?
Yeah, bring her in.
Okay.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank everyone who came today. A lot of smart people put their heads together to figure this out and make it the most, the safest and the best experience that we can give under the circumstances, because for a lot of things, there just aren't any good answers. But we think that this plan will make the most number of people feel comfortable about participating and make it an efficient meeting so that we can take care of the business, no, not to be rushed, but to be efficient and not spend a lot of time on things that we don't need to. And I know John might be preparing to say something about where we will plan to have presentations available online prior to the meeting so that people can have a chance to review them. And then at the meeting, the presenters would just give a quick recap and summary and take questions. And of course, we'll have pro and con discussion as well. But to take care of that part ahead of time, and hopefully there won't be a ton of mosquitoes, so people should come prepared, not only with hand sanitizer, but bug spray and chairs and your own water and such. But I think this is, given the circumstances, probably the best solution that we have given our resources.
So it will just be these two spaces?
that is the plan. So the red box that showed on John's picture, actually, we could go back further than that. And each space is so conveniently marked out as a parking space. Yes, more like that. And we might even be able to put a row down the middle. We were talking about that. That would have to be measured out a little bit better and stuff. But if we had, you know, a household, you know, if two people from the same household sat in a parking spot, and then some of them would be one person sitting in a parking spot, that would give quite a few people the chance to be outside if they chose to be outside. And then, of course, there would be space for some number spaced out inside the gym. And as John said, we won't be taking up much space with the stage or in the screen for the motions and the pictures and everything. Could be, Brendan Hearn was talking about suspending it from the ceiling so you wouldn't even have to take up space for that. So that people can, you know, be more spread out, but still be able to see everything and hear everything.
And how many can we speak inside, John?
Inside, we can, you know, fit a few, 200 to 300, I believe we could fit, depending on how it's set up. It's a pretty big area, and I think outside we could fit probably a little bit less than that, but I think we could, as we get closer, we can continue to fine tune this plan to maximize the area we have available. This is the general plan that we have, and any feedback or questions would be appreciated, because it's going to be a dash to get this thing organized and set up. Fortunately, the campus is pretty quiet, so we'll have a week probably to set up once we order all the equipment, and we can spend a few days, more days than usual, setting it up. But we do need to make some decisions right away.
Peter?
I was wondering if you're going to use the parking lot. There are several towns that are, you know, allowing people to stay in their cars or using the radio broadcast to go through the car radio, and people are just holding paddles up, you know, voting out their window. Have you considered that at all?
Yeah, we looked at that. I mean, if you look at this layout, it almost looks like auditorium seating for cars. But it's not. The trees and things like that are bigger than they look in this picture. This picture is a few years old, so we think that we need to just confine it to one of these parking areas for people to be seated. And it would be great to be able to offer the car as a third option, but we think we have a lot on our hands just providing the two that we have that we're working on. It's definitely, I know there's many communities that have done that, and it's pretty cool. We do have the radio station, but we're trying to, we think this checks the most boxes in terms of, with the understanding that we can't do everything that people are looking to do.
Well, it looks like a good solution for those who don't want to come inside.
Will the auditorium be available if there is an overflow on inside people?
We can, we hadn't envisioned a need for a third space, but I know it's not going to be used for anything else. So we certainly could have that as a plan if we thought we needed it. Absolutely.
And if you needed more outside space, you could use the adjacent parking lane?
Yeah, we tried to strike a balance between giving people the ability to park back here, and also be able to protect people from cars, and securing off this lower level gives us the best situation in that regard. But as we get closer, if we feel like we need to make this area bigger, I think we could look at that as one way to do it. And there's a few other things we could look at as well.
Okay, well, I think you've done a great job figuring this out.
Well done.
Well, this is the easy part. The hard part is to do all the setup. So we have a good team in place to work on that, and I know they're calling and making orders and jumping on it right away. So if this plan meets your approval, we're going to get going right away.
Yes, I think. Any other comments from the board? Go to
forward.
it, John. Go to it.
All right, and just
The time.
yeah, if you're comfortable going to 6 p.m., I think that would help.
Yes, yes. Because that will give us 2 hours at least of daylight.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we can encourage people to get there earlier to get set up, but
Yep.
if we don't start till 6, I think that'll hopefully give people a chance to be there and also give us the most daylight. So with that, this is what we're looking at for a timeline. Today is the 8th, so we have a few days to finalize the warrant and then get it posted and published and sent out to all the households. The moderator is holding the moderators meeting on the 18th. Oh, do we have a time for that, Joanne?
So, I asked for 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Okay, and that will be a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
So we'll publish information about that tomorrow.
John, can you post that as the selectmen's meeting also, so that we can, and all of us?
Yeah. Yep. Good suggestion. We will do that. And then the moderator can maybe talk more about her expectations for presentations. But what we were thinking is that we would get them posted online at least by the 23rd, with the understanding that they would sort of have a chance to have a dry run at the moderators meeting.
Sure. So as I said earlier, we're hoping to have the bulk of the presentation. Of course, we have fewer articles, so there'll be fewer presentations, but for people to record their presentations with slides, without slides, be cognizant of the fact that people are getting Zoom fatigue for sure. And also, but the advantage being people could watch them at their own pace, go back, ask questions. Maybe this will generate more questions than folks usually get on their articles. And then at the actual meeting, have the presenters just hit the most important points in 3 to 5 minutes, take questions, and continue the discussion. So people should be thinking about what makes the most sense for their own presentation, what will look the best on screen with their voice, or them just talking, and because sometimes you don't really need a slide, because of course we will have the slides with the motions at the meeting. And in case anyone is wondering, Eva has already reserved the talking to text translators, so those screens will also be available. Not sure how they're going to spread that out in the parking lot, but that is definitely one of the factors that has to be dealt with during this meeting. So, right, so still keeping the presentations brief. Whatever, I think I said the time limit was, I've got to go back. It feels like about 100 years ago when we were planning for town meeting originally, back in April. But for people to really think about what makes the most sense for people to watch as a presentation on their computers, at home, without getting, worn out by too much information. Same as ever, except they get to control it. If they're done, they can turn it off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm set for the moment.
All right.
Okay, so that's sort of the logistics for town meeting. What we'll do is get this all written up and send out a notice tomorrow to the general town email and website, so that people have more information. We were kind of holding back a little bit until we were able to meet tonight and make sure we finalize and we're on the same page, but I think we're there now. So we'll get this information out right away. And the next topic on the agenda is the warrant articles.
Well, John, just one question. In the back parking lot, there are lights there. That's so?
It's parking lot lighting, which isn't great. So we would probably have to supplement that.
Okay.
And we have a plan to do that.
Peter?
Well, I have a comment on the next topic, the warrant article, so.
All right, well, John, why don't you start us off?
Okay.
It's really just a question. Division of Local Services brought to our attention today that the governor did sign this bill on Friday that allows us to, at this point, we've decided on what our warrant articles we have in there. This would allow us, if it applies, to put the two citizens articles off. I didn't get a sense from talking to the owner of the parcel off of Weatherby that it was an immediate issue. He's looking to future development. I don't know why that couldn't wait until the fall. Zoning articles sometimes get contentious. It does require a 2/3 vote. I don't know whether the board thinks that we should put those off or not. The bill talks about towns that have quorum requirements and reducing the quorum, and a town that takes that action seems to say can not allow citizens articles on the warrant. I think we're covered by it, but we have a 0 quorum, so it's it's unclear to me. But if we have that ability, and maybe Nino could look at that, the question would be whether we would call those 2 citizens articles.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
So Peter, I have looked at the legislation very closely because I do have a couple of towns that do have quorum requirements, so they were very interested in legislation passing. It is not clear that it would apply to an open town meeting town that does not have a quorum requirement. So as Peter indicated, what this legislation did is for representative town meetings, they can hold virtual town meetings if they choose to do so. For open town meetings, those that have a quorum requirement, it allows that quorum to be reduced to 10% of the previously required minimum. And it then includes the fact that the selectmen can then take up essentially any items it deems fit for town meeting. Now, you have no quorum requirement, so it's not clear as a matter of law whether or not this new legislation would apply to Acton. I don't know what the current status of the citizens petitions are. I think folks have been requested to hold off until a fall town meeting or a more fulsome town meeting can be held under different circumstances. That's certainly been the case in other towns as well, and most folks have been willing to do that. So it sounds like maybe there's one here that has not been so willing.
I think both of them said no. We only heard from one at our meeting, but I don't know what it's.
They both indicated to me that if given the choice, they wanted to move forward.
Well, one is the Weatherby and the other is the Russian school.
Yeah.
And I think for traffic reasons, the Russian school should go ahead.
I mean, I'm okay. It shouldn't take up a lot of time. If
No.
we feel that, we can accommodate those 2 articles.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm sorry.
David?
I think that the Russian school one could be very contentious. I've heard people against it, and the man who done the presentations at the planning board, et cetera, has a very long presentation. I know he'd have to cut it back for town meeting, but he just speaks very long. It's just his style. The other one is, there isn't much of a presentation there, and wondering if town meeting would approve a zoning article without a coherent reason to approve it. So I'm, we can go ahead with that one. I think it's pretty short, but I'm a little skeptical that town meeting would pass it. So anyway, I think the Russian school one could be long. So just a comment.
Okay, any other?
So we'll begin at 6.
Yes,
That's fine.
So,
any other questions on the warrant?
yes, if I may, there is one item that when we were cleaning up the warrant a few weeks ago, we removed. It was a placeholder warrant article for collective bargaining agreements. Given it's just a placeholder and the way it was presented in the warrant was that both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen had deferred their recommendation. I am requesting that the board consider putting it back on in the event that there is a reason and a need to discuss a collective bargaining agreement on June 29th. It is 21 days away and stranger things have happened.
Okay. Any objection to putting it back on?
No.
All set then, John.
Thank you. The other items on the warrant, I believe their positions, the board hasn't taken positions on all of the articles. I think that, I don't believe there was one taken on the one you were just discussing, the Weatherby one. Did you want to talk about that further or just defer further?
Dean?
Regarding the Weatherby Street proposal, I would recommend, I think the selectmen should recommend that. I know John was going to prepare some information for us on that as far as what could be done in the EAV2 zone compared to the R2 zone. But I think as I understand it, I think that having that parcel in the EAV2 zone would allow some more commercial activity there. It's in an area with not a lot of residential abutters. It's right next to the railroad tracks. It's right next to a construction yard. It seems to me that whatever we can do to provide more options for commercial activity and broaden our tax base would be a good thing.
And it's adjacent to the rail trail and the new Concord Bridge over Route 2.
Exactly. You can speculate with all kinds of things going in there, a restaurant adjacent to the rail trail or, whatever. But I think providing folks with some options for some commercial activity would be important to broaden our tax base. We keep losing commercial property in town, and it'd be nice to provide some options to put some back in again. So I would recommend that the selectmen support that citizen petition.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Berry?
Aye.
Mr. Benson?
Aye.
Ms. Gardner?
Aye.
Mr. Trotter? Aye. Unanimous.
Okay. Any other articles, John?
Mark Hald, are there any other, do you recall the other one that we needed to double check?
The other one was the release of a restriction on an easement on Strawberry Hill Road, as I recall.
Oh, yeah. I have that.
So that one was also cleaned off the warrant. So I don't know if you want to keep adding articles back on.
No.
But that is one that is still unresolved.
Okay, let's not have it on the warrant.
Mark, in the in the Kelly's Corner land acquisitions article, were you including in the summary a list of the properties, the strip parcels that we're asking that the town acquire?
I do not believe we intended to include the list of parcels. I thought we were going to put them on the website and refer to them from the warrant to the website.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Is there anything else, Sean, on this?
No, well, actually, yes. One other item is every year in the warrant, there's a letter from the town manager, there's a letter from the moderator, there's a letter from the finance committee, and there's a great letter from the board of selectmen. This is kind of a unique town meeting. I didn't know if you wanted to take a second look at the letter and modify it given some of the things that are different this year. And the reason I bring it up now is that we would need that to be completed this week if there's an interest in doing that. Otherwise, we can just make some minor adjustments and make it look okay.
John Benson?
Yeah, just Mark, and on second thought, it's a short list of properties that we are acquiring strips of. Can we put that in the warrant just so it's there?
Absolutely.
Okay, I feel more comfortable.
John, do you want to take a look at this letter? John Benson?
Sure.
Okay.
This is the standard form letter that we.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you to the volunteers. And David?
Oh, I was just gonna, maybe we don't need a motion. I was just gonna move to allow John to edit the letter with John Mangiarotti. But if
I don't think we need a motion.
okay, that's fine.
We'll do it. Thank you.
All right. Anything else
Thank
on
you,
the?
sign it, Joan, so you ought to be involved.
She shows up at the finish line.
I should be just sitting there saying yes. All right, next. Anything else on the warrant? Now we have this compost bin.
Yes. Because of the funding source we use for solid waste and recycling programs, they want us to, the town subsidizes compost bins $25 or less, and the Mass DEP is offering additional funds through their annual grant program. So if we reduce the price of the compost bins, we anticipate using additional grant money to cover the remaining cost of these bins. So Corey has put together recommended changes to pricing for these contraptions that you can buy to help with composting, and they're presented before you in that memo. I can read them out loud if you like.
You want me to share my screen with them?
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Everybody can see them, I assume?
Oh, okay. Any questions on this?
Let's see, I thought that Corey said that it cost us money to do the composting. I thought we probably made money on that, but I guess we have to subsidize that, huh?
Yes.
Any discussion? So the Earth Machine compost bin would go from $50 to $25. The kitchen scrap bucket would go from $8 to $8. The New Age compost bin would go from $60 to $25. And compostable bags, 2.5 gallon size, $4 per 30 bag roll, no change. So we have to vote on this, John?
Yes, please.
Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the change in prices for the compost bins.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Dean, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Mr. Berry,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Trotter, aye, unanimous.
Okay. Item 8, consider an application for fee waiver for outdoor dining.
So this is one of the programs that we had to launch almost immediately when we found out about the changes last week with regards to outside dining and what we need to do at the local level to permit those. There is typically a fee associated with an application, and we're asking that the board waive or consider waiving the fee for these proposals related to the outdoor dining during the state of emergency.
Discussion? Dean?
Yeah, this might not be exactly on point, but it's related. I read through the packet that John Mangiarotti sent out about the process that these restaurateurs go through. It all seems pretty reasonable, and I know people are eager to get started, and some of them have already. My only question is some of the specifications that were included for how to enclose these dining patios included what I thought was some pretty expensive fencing. And I'm wondering if that was a bit of overreach. I did some checking online, and a lot of these fence sections could run for, upwards of $500 for a 6-foot section. And it seems to me that, just some bollards and a rope line might make more sense and be more economical and provide the same level of protection.
David?
Dean, I believe that the guidance does allow rope barriers.
Well, I saw that the ABCC regulations allow the rope barriers, but I got the impression that Acton's regulations went beyond what the ABCC regulations covered. So I just want to get that clarified.
Oh, yes, okay, I understand. Yeah.
Anyone else? So do we want to have a motion to waive the fee? David?
Yes, I move that we waive the liquor licensing fee for the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, and that we require only rope barriers around the seating that's serving alcohol.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Will Dean call the roll?
Can I just ask, is there so all these restaurants serve alcohol, so even if you serve food, do we come out with harder regulations than the state, or are we following the state guidelines? If they serve food and alcohol, we can go with these bollards and ropes, or not?
David?
So my understanding, the statewide liquor requirements require a barrier between where you sell alcohol and where you don't, and the smallest barrier is just a rope line. Dean was saying he thought that Acton's barriers were required, to be more robust. And so, at least for the duration of this pandemic, I would just, in the motion, I just put that it should only be the same as the state requirements. So like if you go to place a temporary liquor license in Boston on the Rose Kennedy Greenway where they're selling alcohol, they just have a rope barrier around that.
Okay, so the motion said if you rope barriers for where you're serving alcohol. Does that include if you're serving food and alcohol? Why not?
I don't believe that there's any requirement for a barrier around places that serve food.
Oh, okay. All right.
John?
So the request for a fee waiver is related to all the fees that are associated with both the liquor licensing and the both expedited land use review of outside seating plans. That's the request. There are two separate processes though for outside dining. There are 19 establishments with licenses, and there are others without licenses. They both need to have, or both of those groups need to have the land use department approve what they want to do outside, but the licensed establishments also need to have the Board of Selectmen approve the same. So in the information that we just sent out, it got out to you late this afternoon because it's all happening pretty quickly. But basically what we said this afternoon is that there are 6 restaurants that got the information into land use for the outside plans, and they're comfortable with what they have proposed. There are 2 that have a couple things left to finalize. Of those, only one of them is not. Legends Cafe is one that doesn't have a liquor license. So all the other ones do. So we'd ask in this first agenda item just that you consider allowing us to waive the fees associated with both reviewing the outdoor dining plans for licensed establishments and non-licensed establishments, and the liquor licensing fees associated with these outside dining plans related to COVID.
David?
Can I amend my motion to say liquor licenses and other licenses for outdoor dining?
Okay, is there the seconder?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Berry,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Charter, aye, unanimous.
Let me just, well, I'm sorry, that's the next agenda item, so,
Well, that's where we're going.
right, so I'll hold on.
Board to consider plans for outdoor dining and license amendments. Peter?
No, I was just going to point out that the land use department recommended that we approve ahead of time their granting of whatever requirements they need to grant to allow these outdoor dining establishments to happen based on their criteria, and I'm in favor of that. So.
Do we have a list of the 6 that are ready? And do we need to vote on them? You're muted, John.
Is there a list?
The staff recommendation is to approve, or for the board to consider modifying the Section 12 all alcohol licenses for Rapscallion, Philo's, True West, Red Raven, and Atlantic Sea Grill. And then they would also like you to consider including the Holy Grail and El Huiquil, even though they have a couple things to finalize in the land use department. They're comfortable recommending that the board consider taking this liquor licensing requirement out of the way and allowing them to finish the process with them. Would you like me to read those, all 8 of those again, or however many there were?
Okay.
So Rapscallion, Philo's, True West, Red Raven, Atlantic Sea Grill, Holy Grail, El Huiquil for the all alcohol, Section 12 all alcohol beverages. And the motion provided in the memo is I move to, or does anybody have that? Want me to share my screen?
This is Section 12, all alcoholic beverage restaurants?
Yes.
Do you want to make the motion, John B?
Yeah, I move to approve the amended common of particular licenses to expose, keep for sale, and to sell all kinds of alcoholic beverages to be drunk on premises, specifically in outdoor service areas temporarily until November 1, 2020, or until Governor Baker's order from June 6, 2020 is rescinded. That goes to Rapscallion's Tap to Table, Philo's Great Road, True West, Red Raven, and Atlantic Sea Grill.
Is there a second? David?
Can I offer a friendly amendment to include El Hupil, and there was one more, John?
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
Sure.
Okay. Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah,
Motion
I would
made.
just also, let me just also add another friendly amendment. The Holy Grail and Al Hupil, dependent on the land use department approval of their applications.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Barry,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Trotter, aye, unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
So the next item is for the establishment that has just a malt and wine license, which will be New London style pizza. They have submitted a plan approved by land use, and if the board is willing, modifying their license will allow them to serve outside. And the motion is in the memo provided also.
Okay,
So I'll move then to a motion to approve the amended common particular licenses to expose, keep for sale, and to sell malt and wine beverages to be drunk on premises, specifically in outdoor service areas temporarily until November 1, 2020, or until the governor's order from June 6, 2020 is rescinded. The New London style pizza.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Barry,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Trotter, aye, unanimous.
Motion carries. All right, everybody go out and eat and drink tomorrow. Anything else before we move to the consent items?
Do we have a hearing at 7:05 or is that
7:10.
17?
Yeah, we can do the consent items.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Number 10, approved meeting minutes, May 12th, 2020. Approved letter to Miracle League. Those are the two items.
I move to approve consent items 10 and 11.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Barry,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Trotter, aye, unanimous.
Okay. It's 7:05 and this is at 7:10.
We almost timed it right, off by 5 minutes.
That's pretty good.
I can just mention on the last item that you approved the letter thanking the Miracle League. They made a substantial, as you approved and accepted last week, they made a substantial donation to help support the construction of the Narrow Sports Pavilion North Building. We had a meeting with the contractor yesterday or last week, I guess, and they're going to be starting very soon in June, which is very exciting. So we look forward to showing the public the investment that was made by many people, including the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Community Preservation Act funding, and Miracle League donors. So it's exciting development, and we appreciate their support and their generous donation to help bring that project to the funding limit that we need. And as we prepare for the public hearing, it's a long hearing notice. I wonder if it takes 4 minutes to read. It looks like there may be a question in the audience. I'm not sure if that's something you want to entertain.
David?
Yep.
Bring him in.
Go ahead, Tara.
It's Tara from West Acton. I had a comment on 32 Weatherby. I've since sent an email into the Board of Selectmen. I also request that you do not spray the outdoor area with any toxic mosquito killing sprays and let us spray our own cells if we want with natural ingredients. These toxic sprays are really troublesome for people who have respiratory issues, especially in this time of COVID, with respiratory sensitivities. I hope that that's not going to be something you're going to make us choose between sitting in a cloud of virus and sitting in a cloud of poison or not coming and exercising our right to vote at all. Thank you.
Anyone else, David?
Nope, no one else.
I don't have the memo on this, John.
I can share the public hearing notice
Okay.
on the screen. And let's see.
The Acton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, June 8th at 7:10. The hearing's purpose is to discuss a proposed grant application for fiscal year 2019 CDBG-CV funding under the Massachusetts CDBG program for the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD. This is a special funding round resulting from an appropriation through the CARES Act of 2020. For this application, the Town of Acton will lead community in a regional application that may include any or all of the following municipalities: Boxborough, Littleton, Maynard, and Westford. The town intends to seek funding to provide 1, grants to businesses defined as micro enterprises, those with 5 or fewer employees, including the owners, and 2, funding to support public social services activities designed to assist persons who have been impacted by the COVID-19 virus. The maximum funding available is $400,000 per individual community. Due to the closure of town offices to the public, the hearing will be held online via Zoom on Monday, June 8th at 7:10 on Zoom. Login instructions for computers, laptops, https://zoom.us/j/503-918-785 or visit http://zoomus/join and enter meeting ID 503-918-785 at prompt Zoom login instruction for phones and tablets. Download the free program Zoom app from your app store following computer laptop instructions. From a telephone, dial 646-876-9923 and enter web and computer and app users. ID 503-918-785. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak. Any person or organization participating in the live online session will be afforded an opportunity to be heard. If I can move this down a little bit.
Oh, I can do that, sorry.
All right. Will be afforded an opportunity to be heard. Information to assist in determining urgent local needs is welcome. Comments may be made at the hearing or in writing by Wednesday, June 10th, 2020 at 12 p.m. The town encourages a broad spectrum of participation by residents and other interested parties. For further information or to submit comments, you email John S. Mangiarotti, Town Manager at actonmass.gov. Okay.
Calling the public hearing to order.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for reading that, and thank you for calling this public hearing. This is a requirement of the application process for a grant that we're seeking with Boxborough, Littleton, Maynard, and Westford. We're putting in together as a group an application to try to get support for our micro enterprises. Micro enterprises are defined by DHCD as part of this program as a commercial enterprise that has 5 or fewer employees, 1 or more of whom owns the enterprise. Also, a micro enterprise assistance activity may qualify under the low moderate income limited clientele national objective if either of the activity assists the owners of the micro enterprise who are LMI persons, meaning less than or equal to 80% of AMI based on family size. Also, micro enterprises that serves as an LMI neighborhood or community-wide area, which at least 51% of its residents are LMI persons. So in addition to it has to be a small business, it also has to meet income guidelines for people that apply for this. And that's part of the program as DHC laid it out. Other things of note are that it can allow for grants of up to $10,000 per business. Up to $400,000 is available to each community. And the proposal that we are working on, which is due on Friday, we are looking forward to public comment tonight, and we hope that there's additional public comment that we receive by Wednesday at noon through email to me, so that we can make sure that we incorporate any of this feedback. And we will be, in addition, so we will be seeking the full amount, the $2 million, and we will be setting aside a portion of that for administration costs, so that the 5 communities involved do not have to solely manage it itself. Acton will be the lead community, and one of the first things we'll do is find a consultant who we've already talked to a few to help administer this program. We have a lot of experience now with a small business grant program, the one we just launched that I discussed earlier. It's a lot of work to manage the $100,000 worth of grants. So managing $2 million worth of grants, we think would be a lot more work. So if we're successful in getting the grant, we're going to utilize a third party, or in this case, a 6th party, to help manage it. In addition to micro enterprises, this program can also be used to help social service organizations, nonprofits that provide services such as food pantries, or other groups like that that provide services to the community, and those can be receive a grant through this program as well. This is developing very quickly. We do have, I believe, some folks from other communities participating in the meeting, and they're welcome to speak, but I know that they're here just to listen as well. And this is really just a public hearing. So I'd be curious to hear any board comments or questions, and then it'd be great if we can open it up to the public through our attendees line. I will need some help screening callers if that's possible, but I don't know if the board wants to go first with any comments.
John, I understand the deadline for submitting, but what's the time for receiving?
That's a good question. Selby, who is our Director of Land Use and Economic Development, is helping and taking a lead on putting this application together. And I know he's talked to the folks at DHCD. Selby, are you out there? There you are. Hold on. You're okay. You're on now.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have a sense of, or do you want to say anything? And then at the end, could you include any sense you have of the timeline?
Yeah, the only thing I want to say is that for some reason we missed out on a regional application that was being submitted by the MAPC. The town of Ashland took the lead on that application, and they had a public hearing on Thursday night. They're representing 23 communities, and their grant amount that they're requesting is $5.5 million. They're working with the Mass Growth Capital Corporation to administer their grant. So the public hearing notice is went out Thursday. Tonight's the public hearing. The application is due on the 12th. And then I think it takes about a month for the award to be announced.
So it'll be sometime in July?
It would be sometime in July, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Are there any waiting to be heard, David?
No, there are none waiting to be heard at the moment.
So no comments from the board and no public?
I have a comment, no question.
Oh, all right.
The comment I have is that I think this is an excellent program. These are exactly the kind of businesses that we hear about in town that need support at this time. For the businesses that are really suffering, and for the businesses that we want to be able to retain in town, past the end of this pandemic emergency. So I think this is an excellent program.
Thank you. And we're certainly seeing a lot. As I mentioned, we've had 116 or so people pull the application. Many of those people are businesses that are looking to access our small business grant. Would certainly be benefit from this type of grant too, because they are small enterprises. So hopefully it works out. I do see another comment from the public out there. Would you like me to bring it in?
Sure.
Okay. TF.
Hi, it's Tara from West Acton. Thank you. I'm a little I have a clarifying question, and then I have my comments and questions afterwards, depending on the answer to the clarifying question. So I'm a little confused about how many grant opportunities there are. I hear the 2.1 million, and then I hear, is there another 2.1 million? And there's the CARES Act, and then there's the local relief fund. John, can you spell them out in sort of like, standard language so that I can just type them so we know what those names are and what the amounts are?
Sure, I can do my best to describe so the CARES Act provided support to communities in a few different ways, and the state is releasing that funding in a few different phases. So what was announced earlier, or I guess later in May, is the $2.1 million of direct aid for COVID-related expenses that is available to the Town of Acton in FY20 and FY21. So that's one portion of CARES Act funding that has been made available to us, and we have a plan to use some of that for several things. The two things that the Board of Selectmen have already approved are a rental assistance grant program for $50,000 and a small business grant program for $100,000. So let's set that 2.1 million aside in what we've done with that so far. Additional release of funding from CARES Act went straight to the state, and it wasn't distributed on a locality by locality basis. It was just given to the state, and they said, use this to do certain things. And this is the program that they've come up with, and it's a program that they've made available on a competitive basis for communities to access this money if they use it for micro enterprise grants for their local businesses or this public services grants. So it's competitive. Not everybody can get it. We feel like we have a strong group of communities to partner with, and we hope that we're successful. We're going to be asking for $2 million with the idea that we want $400,000 for each community. If we don't get that, hopefully we'll get something less than that. Whatever we're able to get from this program will apply to our micro enterprises and social services group. There is additional funding available through CARES Act that also isn't going to be directly given to provided to communities, and information hasn't been released on that yet. But it's going to probably be a more competitive program sometime in the future.
All right, thank you. Now I have some questions. Is that okay, Chairman?
Sure. Yeah.
So I also heard that there was deadlines. And so like, you have to use up the money before a certain deadline. So I don't want Town to miss any opportunity to get money. So I'm interested in hearing about the deadline and how we're able to scale up to make sure that we get as much of that money as possible. It's unfortunate because some communities may have lots of staff hanging around waiting to fill out grant applications and chase them down. And I have one other question after that.
The deadline is the 12th.
I heard something about using things up before December. So the application deadline is by the 12th, but then there was something about, I thought you said that you have to, the 2.1 million had to be used up by December?
That's the earlier phase of direct local assistance to the Town of Acton. That's not the program that we're discussing in this public hearing.
Great, thank you, direct local assistance. And then the last question was, how could we have missed a grant opportunity? And I'm not saying that to be critical. I mean to say, do they notify the towns that these exist? Is it a matter of people looking through mail, or how is it that we can make sure that we don't miss
it? We're applying for it right now. We didn't miss it. This is why.
All right. I thought you said Shelby said that we missed it.
I'm not sure why he said that.
Okay. Thank you.
Applying for it right now.
That's it. Thank you so much.
All right, anyone else?
Oh, and I'm very supportive of all of this. This is wonderful, and I'm very glad John is identifying these opportunities, chasing them down, and applying. It's really wonderful, and these folks need help out here, residents and businesses. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Any further citizens?
Oh, Joan, do you mind if I do any of the representatives from other communities want to say anything about their participation in the program? Optionally, not required, obviously.
Just press the raised hand button at the bottom of your screen.
But we have, as just like Acton, our partners have been very busy preparing for their town meetings and in some cases elections. And this grant opportunity is a priority, but it's something that we're having to find ways to work on. So it's nice that we're working on it together. Fortunately, the application isn't long, but we want to make sure that we take the opportunity for an evening like this for any public comments or questions. And then we're going to work with our partners to demonstrate why our group is deserving of this grant award. I do see a hand raised. Do you mind if I bring Rebecca in?
Bring it in.
Rebecca?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Rebecca Cheney. I'm the town planner in Westford. So I just want to say thank you for sharing this opportunity with us. We were not aware of it, and it's a tight deadline, but we're happy to be included. And I just want to express my thanks to you all in Acton for getting this rolling.
Well, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yep.
Anyone else?
So this notice appeared in the Lowell Sun last week, which is also published online. This notice appeared on our website, and I believe it was also a news flash. So hopefully people come across it and have seen it and will provide comment if they aren't here tonight. Provide any comments that they have through email to me, and if not, we'll continue to work and make sure we put something in and report back to you all in a few months or a few weeks maybe.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Any other issues that come before the board? Is there a motion?
Do we need a vote?
No, I was talking about a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Berry,
Aye.
Mr. Benson,
Aye.
Ms. Gardner,
Aye.
Mr. Chowder, aye, unanimous.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.